Hey everybody, with a GMG review. Today we're taking a look at FREAKZ Mutant Murder Machines, a wargame by Michael Whelan, illustrated by Bone Dust, and published by Osprey Games, which was kindly sent along as a complimentary review copy. Now this gonzo rules light hyper skirmish is set in an atomic wasteland with very Mike Mignola meets Rick and Morty vibes. You're fighting for the favor of one of 4 atomic gods, at which point you'll open a rift if you unlock their final dictate and become their chosen champion at their side as you transcend to the atomic plane. This is a miniature agnostic wargame set, like I said, in a nuclear wasteland sort of like our own, and is wholly gonzo, and then it uses a 52 deck of cards, like a standard playing card deck, to generate random mutations called Artifactz that are created by the atomic, fall, which graft to your characters, your grunts, and your leader, and will upgrade them with massive amounts of power, as well as potentially turning them into CRONENBERGs. And CRONENBERGs is the catch-all term for giant mutants. If you ever go over your artifact limit with a model, they immediately turn into a CRONENBERG, become an NPC, and will attack everybody in sight. So you're kind of managing the temptation of your models as they are, like left nearby artifacts that might be on the game table. They might try and grab them if they get tempted. But artifacts are permanent upgrades. They fuse to your body and cannot be removed. And therefore, if you hit your artifact limit, which is 5 for a leader, 3 for a grunt, you immediately transform into a CRONENBERG. The game itself is relatively simple. It uses a very simple attack profile and very simple stat lines. There's basically 2 stat lines. There's one for grunts. They have 2 hit points, can make 2 actions, hold 3 artifacts, and are equipped with any 1 melee weapon or ranged weapon, and ranged weapon. And then leaders have twice as many, so 4 health points, 3 actions per turn, can have 5 artifacts, and again have a melee weapon and a ranged weapon. Now in campaigns, one-off games, and quick play, which is the 3 game modes, you can alternate between different ways of playing. So if you play a quick play game, you just build a squad of 5 models, randomly generate them or pick them a couple artifacts and start playing one of the missions from the book. In a sort of like standard size game, you just pick 8, so it's 7 grunts and a leader, and then you get 6 artifacts to spread across the board and play a game. But in a campaign game, you start with the standard 5. You can upgrade your group with group experience to unlock more grunt slots, purchase group-wide abilities, and there's like a post-game sequence for people dying, healing, and swapping their equipment out for new equipment. Now, the core game mechanic is basically a pooled dice. So it's a D6 based game with 2 opposed dice pools. First, you check your target number. If a model's in the open, it's 0. So if you're going to shoot at somebody, the target number is roll anything. If you're in cover, there's going to be a defense dice. Sorry, and one's always fail, I believe. If you're in light cover, at least a little bit obscured, you get a defense dice of D6. Medium cover, it's 2D6. Heavy cover, it's 3D6. You roll those dice. That is the set target number. So whatever the highest dice roll is in that pool, let's say I roll a 2, 3, 4, 4s are going to be the target number. Then I'd roll my attack dice based upon the weapon I'm shooting you with. Let's say I've got an SMG, 2 attack dice. If you're inside 14 inches, you get to attack. So each of my dice that was a 4 or better would do a health point in damage. That's it. That's the basic core mechanic for fighting. A knife in melee, it's the same exact thing, except it's just a D6. If you have a 0 for your target number, sometimes you'd be unobscured. Once the dice are rolled, a 1's always a fail, and a 6 is always better. But rolling less than 1 dice, whenever you need a dice result, but you're rolling fewer than 1 dice, you need to roll with disadvantage. To roll 0d6, you would take 2d6 and use the lowest rolled dice. So you rolled a 1 and a 4, you'd take a 1. So 0d6 is basically you're rolling with a disadvantage. And that would be your basic target number. So you could still somehow boxcar, I guess, in the open and have a super high target number. Certain weapons will modify that though. So for instance, rifles, -1 of the final target number. So you could actually have an automatic hit with a rifle. So let's say they rolled a 1 for the defense number, and then you're shooting them with a rifle, it would be a 0, but I believe 1s still fail. And then you roll dice. Selected a target, make sure it's in line of sight. Roll a number of 6-sided dice to roll against one another. The person who declared the attack action is known as the attacker, and rolls their attack dice. The player is using the the defense is the defender. And then rolling less than 1 dice, rolling attack dice. Any dice that have a result below the target number or rolled a 1 will miss and do no damage. Yeah, 1s always fail. If the results, final result is a 1, it always counts as a miss. If any attack dice final result is a 6, it always counts as a hit. So 1s always miss, 6s always hit. Lose all your health points, become KO'd. If unit's health is -1 or less, they're considered dead and they're gone for good. And then you end a round. So rounds of freaks continue back and forth, each player taking a turn to activate one of their models until all models have been activated and no more possible turns can be taken. And you simply pass the activation back. If one player is the only one with units left to activate, they'll activate all the remaining units that they have left in a row. Once every unit's been activated, no possible turns remain, the round will come to an end, and when your game fully ends will depend upon the scenario itself. But if there's no time limit, you'll start a new round when the previous one ends. And you end the game usually based on the scenario or if someone decides to retreat. And then, yeah, game modes. Quick games is 5 models, standard games is 8 models, and then campaign games is the normal standard again. And then, yeah, it sounds like a really simple core mechanic. It's kind of reminiscent of things like Forbidden Psalm, where the basic core mechanic for making a model is fairly simple, but then is when it gets crazy. So artifacts are power-ups for your units that will be strewn across the map in play section, waiting for your squad to pick them up. There's 52 different ones, and they can't be used more than once. So basically, if you're going to deal out a deck of cards, keep the cards with your warband that you have equipped, and then put them back in the deck once they got used up. Artifacts are the core mechanic of freaks that make the game sing. They're gonzo, rule-breaking powers that graft themselves to your squad and give them things like giant leathery wings, whipping tentacles, and hideous growths. The artifacts are what called you and your compatriots here in the first place, unknowable wells of power, and a chance at a higher existence in the court of one of the atomic gods. So examples of these things, and I'll show you the temptation stuff afterwards. And then, of course, if you go over your artifact limit, you immediately turn into a CRONENBERG, which is why there's temptation rolls. Things like fervent spores once per round. Use an action to launch a spore at any surface within line of sight in 8 inches and it immediately explodes and does explosion damage. Pustulant padding. The unit takes no damage from explosions. Human shield. Friendly units may use this unit as cover when in base-to-base contact with it. Covered in spores. Add 2 to your health points. Basically, these are your stat upgrades. The different suits are also the different gods that they're associated with. So, for instance, Myconic is they're mushrooms. Sanguis is obviously blood. Yawul is like a weird bug. And then Portcullis is like some kind of technology character god thing. Has things like matter destroyers, heightened realities, shining blessing, dimension, twist, weird walker. Once per round, use an action to swap place with any unit in line of sight. Phase bullets that go through walls. And then, yeah, the kind of mutation-y one is Yawul, which gives you things like a carapace. Roll a d6 cover dice whenever this unit's attacked, so +1 cover all the time. Grabbing tentacles. Use an action to perform a 3d6 attack against the unit within line of sight in 12 inches. This attack would deal at least 1 damage. Instead, deal no damage and place target unit in base contact with your unit. So you drag them over there. It's an old scorpion trick. And so, yeah, so you're going to start off collecting either from a corpse or from the board. So they'd be littered on the board or collected from corpses when people die. So people that aren't dead or removed, you can rip them off of. When attempting to claim an artifact from a corpse with multiple artifacts on it, you can pick any of those that, to target with your temptation roll. And then, yeah, so if you get too crazy with the artifacts, obviously you will die and turn into a CRONENBERG. And how you start off with them, they're like upgrades for individual units. When a unit collects one, they'll have the artifact assigned to them on your squad sheet. And they permanently change the rule, stats, and abilities of your units. And you can't take them off unless they die, typically. They're the main way to upgrade your units throughout the campaign. However, in Freaks, upgrades on your units are not limited to a management phase outside of play. As soon as you collect the artifact, you can use it right away. There's multiple ways a player can collect artifacts over the course of a game or campaign. When they come across artifacts in the wild, they'll have to fight the temptation to graft new mutations themselves. To have a unit pick up an artifact in the course of the game, you'll need to succeed in a temptation roll. Temptation rolls are your units fighting against their common sense to use an eldritch, otherworldly entity grafting new appendages of matter onto their bodies. Temptation roll is always done with a single d6, but the result you'll need to hit on a 6 depends on the number of artifacts that unit's already carrying and the amount they're already carrying. So can and will. So like, if your grunt wants to pick one up and it's their first artifact, a 3+, they'll do it. If it's their second, it's a 4+, and a third's on a 5+. And then the leaders, always on a 1+ for the first one, seconds 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And then for a grunt to successfully collect an artifact, you need to roll equal to the number of artifacts you already have to that grunt +3 or higher. For a leader, it's +1. They'll be far more likely to accept a blessing of the gods, and that's why they're in charge. So you always need to roll higher, +3. So if your grunt already has 0, you need to roll a 3+. Sorry, you have to roll higher or equal to, right? It means you have to roll this. For a grunt to successfully collect an artifact, you need to roll equal to the number of artifacts you already have assigned to that, +3 or higher. So yeah, it would be a 4+ to pick up after your first one, and then a 5+ for your last one. For a leader, it's +1 instead. And then in most scenarios, there'll be artifacts waiting to be collected on the board. Artifacts are on the board are represented by tokens used in an interactive action to attempt a temptation roll. An artifact on the board will usually be hidden. As soon as it successfully claims an artifact on the board, reveal it by randomly generating from the deck of cards. And if your temptation roll fails, the artifact stays where it is. It's only removed from the board once the unit's claimed it. Whenever you attempt to pick up an artifact in this way, you may add 1 to your temptation roll result for each time a unit failed to pick it up during the course of the game. And then collecting artifacts at the end of your turn. When a grunt equipped with 3 artifacts or a leader equipped with 5 artifacts ends a turn within 3 or 1 or more artifacts or corpses containing them, they must make a free temptation test. So this is where you can turn into a CRONENBERG. If you're standing within 3 inches of one that could be claimed and you're maxed out, you have to make the test anyway at the end of the round, because you might just be like, but like maybe 1 more, maybe I'll be different. And then you turn into a CRONENBERG and immediately become factionless and attack. So then, yeah, we've got all of our keywords. We've got our core campaign development stuff in here, so playing a campaign game. It's easy as creating a squad for each player that wants to take part and kicking things off with a scenario of your choice. The first game will play out much like any other, but at the end of the game, the campaign's rules and features will start to take effect. There's 2 main differences between a standard game of FREAKZ and a campaign game. Firstly, the result of one game will carry on. So if a unit collects a new artifact, they'll hold on it for the rest of the game. So typically you start with 0 artifacts and just your weapons, and then you'll slowly get different over the course of the games. You go through the squad's campaign turn at the end of a game. Earn squad XP using the rules for the scenario. You get whatever XP you get. Heal damaged units. Everybody goes to full health. Replacing dead units if you die. So if you can either recruit a new leader or promote one of your existing models to become a leader, and then get that grunt replaced for free. But you've always got your 5 grunts unless you've increased that amount through your XP. And then downtime, you can swap units' weapons. So just like if you got an SMG and you want a rifle, you can just give them a rifle. There's no paying for guns. They just sit around. Unlock a squad upgrade or activate one of the dictates. So you spend XP, 10 XP can give you like +1 grunt. The second one will give you another +1 grunt. It's 20 XP the second time you buy it. Spray and pay, reroll any 1s on SMG attacks. So that's 15 XP. Secluded Slayers, +1 to rifle attack dice. Basically you're upgrading your guns with these 2. Atomic Champion, choose an atomic god. Whenever you pick up a randomly generated artifact for one of your units, you can swap the suit of the artifact to that of the chosen god. So if you flip an ace of diamonds, you could flip to an ace of spades or clubs if you want instead, if your chosen god is Yaul. Protect the boss for 15 plus an XP or an HP on your leader. And then Tempting Gifts. Generate a random artifact and assign it to a unit that doesn't have its artifact capacity already met. And then finally, Sacrifice to the Gods. Over the course of a FREAKZ campaign, the atomic gods will attempt to curry your favor by blessing you with squaddies with untold power. Their grip is intangible, but if you have a grunt with a maxed out set of artifacts, you can sacrifice them, which is to straight up kill them. You remove them and their artifacts from your thing, and you can unlock one of the gods' dictates. So for instance, Dictate Tier 1, Myconic's Stout Stoicism. If a unit doesn't move at all during its turn, it can roll a +1 d6 for defending against the next range attack made against it this turn. So like everybody unlocks these themselves, and you can pick a different god every single time for each of the different ones. But as soon as you pick Dictate 1, all the other ones get locked out. So you can't use Portcullis's and Yaul's level 1. When you go to the next level, you could pick a different god to curry favor with. And as you go through into the tier 2 ones and tier 3 ones, finally when you get to the final one, Dictate's final tier, which is Dictate 4, the final Dictate, you can choose a Dictate to remove all non-Myconic artifacts from their units and become the Gateway and play the scenario opening the gates. The 4th one basically takes you all the way to the end where you're trying to open the gate to get your dark god to come join you on this plane. And that ends the campaign typically. You got some NPC stats, like I said, for CRONENBERGs, Atomic Zombies, and Space Gremlins. And of course, dust bunnies, because you gotta get those. And we got lots of scenarios, everything like gooey geysers. What else? Zombie hordes, and these will have NPCs, and the murder robots show up to try and fight you. Opening the gates is, of course, the final one. And then we got some standees that you can play the game with if you want from more lovely art. This art is all the art from the book, basically, as standees by Bone Dust. An excellent artist, and I think really adds the character of this book. They did a great job pairing up artists and writers in this one. So here we go, FREAKZ, Osprey's stab at the miniature agnostic world, which of course has been blowing up with all kinds of different games, everything from variety of different Black Site games to our own Carity Productions Forbidden Psalm, and the Psalmiverse, I guess is what we would call it right now. And this looks like fun. It's obviously heavily entrenched in theme. It's a Kit Basher's, funsies game. I guess you could make every time you got an artifact, you can make a cool miniature. But I think probably the best thing to do is just make the most insane miniatures possible and don't worry too much about your modeling and having it be WYSIWYG, because the point is that it's insane that it happens over the course of the game, and that your guys kind of evolve on their own. But if you wanted to, if you had a crazy group, you could start with 5 models and make them convert new ones every time you play a game in the campaign. The campaign does look a bit long. If you had a maxed out model to sacrifice every game, you'd still be playing, I think per level it's 3. So it'd be at least 10 games of sacrifices before you would get to the end game state. Which is not that long, but you're not always gonna have someone to sacrifice. No, actually it's more than that. I think it's 15. Yeah, because there's 4 dictates in each level. So 3 tiers, each one has 4 dictates, and then the last one's gonna be, so it's gonna be 13 total. 13 total gets you to the end of the campaign. It's a bit long for finishing the campaign, so I might have made it a bit shorter, made it 10 total, because some games you're not gonna be able to sacrifice somebody and make it a little bit more gonzo. And you're not really getting attached to people in this game anyway, because you're killing them to push forward into the atomic plane. Overall though, fun looking game. I think it's definitely got its niche. It'd be a great party game. I think this would be a great fun game for like your yearly get together where you and your buddies all in the summertime have like a gaming barbecue or something like that. This would be a good one for that. It would be a good con game. If you go to long gaming conventions, I could see FREAKZ getting played in the after hours by dudes working at Adepticon or Gen Con. It's that kind of game where like you could hammer out a couple games each night and play, a quickie little like 4 or 5 game campaign over the course of the week when you're at a convention. It's that kind of a game. A good basement game, a fun diversion, and yeah, for the price, I think I'd give it a toss. This one's 40 bucks Canadian hardcover, 30 bucks US, 20 pounds, and it's in A5 scale hardcover with beautiful full color art. So big thanks for Osprey sending this along, and for you guys for watching. Until next time, I'm Ash. Happy gaming.